Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, the first day of training camp is officially in the books, so it's time to overreact, baby! Nah, we're not going to do that, but I will give you my observations, what I saw, good, bad, what I'd like to see more of. That's all coming up, plus a lot more on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for Thursday, July 27th, 2023.
You're Locked On Raiders, your daily podcast on the Las Vegas Raiders.
Win.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Just win.
Your team every day.
Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show. Of course, if you're checking us out on YouTube, we definitely appreciate you. We've gone over 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's thanks to you, Raider Nation. Big thanks to you. Couldn't do that, obviously, without you. Also couldn't do it without my man, Ari. He does a great job each and every day making sure we're up on YouTube. You can check him out on Twitter, at Ari Produces. You ever want to hit me up on Twitter, you can as well, at your boy Q254. And if you want to get something in on the show, either by way of call or text, the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. As a matter of fact, those calls and texts will come up in segment number 3 of today's show. Segment number 2, just talk about the observations that I saw from day 1 of training camp. Of course, we'll be back out there this morning, depending on what time you're listening. Camp is from 8:30 to 10:30. At least that's what time practice is. And we can view it from about 8:30 to about 10:15. And then we'll have our media session where we get to talk to select players starting around 10:30. So that's coming up today. But segment number 2, I'll give you my day 1 observations. Good stuff. Maybe a couple bad things and some things I need to see some more of. That's all coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, give you the news and notes of the day. And off top, just talk about guys that did not participate in Wednesday's practice. This is from Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. Does a great job each and every day going through it and seeing who he sees not out there participating. There's only a couple guys. He tweeted out, the only Raider players under contract who I don't see at practice, defensive tackle Neil Farrell Jr., defensive tackle Byron Young, who's on the PUP list, defensive edge rusher Tyree Wilson, non-football injury list, that's the NFI list, and cornerback Nate Hobbs, who took a softball off the face at the Battle for Vegas, the softball game, the charity softball game against the Golden Knights on Saturday. So Neil Farrell Jr., Byron Young, Tyree Wilson, Nate Hobbs. We knew Young and Tyree Wilson weren't going to be there. Was wondering about Nate Hobbs, especially with that the softball going off the eye. Didn't know about defensive tackle Neil Farrell. But later on, the Raiders tweeted out, we've placed defensive tackle Neil Farrell Jr. on the NFI list, the non-football injury list. So there you go. 3 guys, all young guys on the defensive line, all out to start practice or start training camp, which is not a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Byron Young, the 3rd-round pick, Tyree Wilson, the 1st-round pick, Neil Farrell Jr. picked last year by GM Dave Ziegler. All guys injured to start the training camp. So, again, not the best look. There's a reason why the Raiders have signed a couple guys on the defensive line when it came to Kyle Peko, who was signed on matter of fact, on Tuesday. Yeah, he was signed on Tuesday. And then Isaac Rochelle, they signed on Monday. So there's a reason why they signed those defensive linemen. And it's because, well, these guys were going to go on the NFI list or the PUP list. So that's never good. But that's really the latest when it comes to a couple guys injured, guys that weren't out there performing. Everybody else was out there, and they were getting their work in on the first day of training camp. Well, following the first practice, we got to talk with Jimmy G, Davante Adams, Marcus Epps, and Maxx Crosby. So just have a couple sound bites from each guy. If you want to hear the whole full meal deal when it comes to all the media sessions, you could always go to Raiders.com. You can check out their YouTube page. They have the whole meal deal thing. But here's Jimmy G just talking about building chemistry with the offensive line. This is a question that I asked him because I think it's important, right? I mean, we talk about building chemistry with the weapons around him, but the offensive line, learning this cadence, learning the snap, especially when it comes to Andre James. Where does he want the ball? How does he want the ball? What's the if he's in shotgun, if he's under center, what does it look like? So here's Jimmy G on building chemistry with that offensive line.
It's a process. I mean, it's like anything in this league, especially the center and me. We just got to be on the same page, especially with the mic points, protections, things like that. It's a little different in this offense than most. But Andre and me, I thought we had a pretty good day today. Just getting cadence and them feeling my rhythm with the cadence. I think it'll take time, but we got to get it sooner rather than later.
So, again, I think that is something that's very important that's been brought up on the show before. How quickly can he get up to speed with the offensive line, and how quickly can him and Andre James get on the same page? And, of course, if you're going to talk about the quarterback, you've got to talk about the wide receiver one, Davante Adams. So here's Jimmy G on all things Davante Adams, not just, what kind of player he is, how it was like to practice with him for the first time, but what kind of conversations they've had also following practice, even while they were just in the classroom, because this is the first time that Jimmy G was actually on the grass with Davante Adams.
Came out in the same draft class. I always watched Davante. I always, thought he was one of the best in the league, if not the best. And it's as a quarterback, it gives you a sense of relief almost to have a guy like that. We were throwing some routes on air today, and we were just talking and just hearing him talk and how he sees the picture and how I see it. It's pretty cool. I mean, he sees it very similar to a quarterback, which as a quarterback makes you feel great, man. So it's nice. On one of the routes I threw him, I asked him if he was going full speed, and I was like, was that your foot? Because he's just so smooth, man. It looks effortless, and I thought I overthrew him on one of the deep balls. He ended up getting to it. So it was just things like that it's a luxury as a quarterback to have a guy like that. I just got to get used to it. So it was really cool, and I'm glad to have him, man.
So if you're a quarterback, you've got to love that, right? You got to love having a guy like Davante Adams where you think that you possibly overthrew him, and it looks so effortless, and he just goes and gets it. And it's funny, when he said that, I almost laughed during the media session, because when I watched Davante Adams, it looks like he's not really going full speed. It looks like it is very effortless, but he gets there. It's just kind of like he's gliding, and that's what the greats do. They just kind of look like they're not even really working that hard, but they're getting it done. And I know Davante Adams is putting in all the work. It's just, again, it's the way he appears to make it look. Speaking of Davante Adams, he spoke with us after the practice as well, so I got a couple sound bites I wanted to bring to the table from him. So you heard Jimmy G on Davante Adams. How about Davante Adams on impressions and thoughts of Jimmy G?
Well, today was our only day on the field, obviously, so I just say his openness and eagerness to learn, and whether that means from me or to learn the scheme and obviously the way the coaches want it done. So really cool guy. We've talked a lot. Me, when I'm going in there getting treatment in the last phase when we were here, we got to learn a lot about him and have some funny, interesting conversations too. So that's really been the best part for me, is just getting to know him as a person.
So there's Davante Adams after the first day on the grass with Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's going to keep it even keel. He's not going to get too high. He's not going to get too low, and he knows there's a lot of work to do. I've been saying for a long time I'm going to focus a lot on the defensive side of things, and, of course, when guys are getting after it, getting after Davante Adams, or they're guarding Davante Adams, they're going to get pretty pumped up. And so there was a moment where Amik Robertson got pumped up. But before we get to Davante talking about that moment, just here's Davante Adams' thoughts on what he sees in Marcus Peters' game. Obviously a guy that has plenty of experience, a guy that has plenty of interceptions, 32 career interceptions. Here's Davante Adams on Marcus Peters and what he sees in his game.
Yeah, obviously you got to be a smart player to be able to be on defense and catch the ball as many times as what he has in his career. It doesn't happen, which means it's not just going to go out there and happen again just because he's had it in the past. You got to still come in doing the right things. But I've known Marcus for a long time. We're not family, but we kind of got the same family. So I've been a fan of his game for a while, and being from the same area, I'm definitely rooting for him to have a great year.
So we've asked just about everybody about Marcus Peters, right? We haven't had a chance to talk to him yet, but we have asked just about everybody what they see in him, what he could bring to the table, how excited and pumped up. And for the most part, every single person, matter of fact, I don't think there's one person we've talked to that isn't pretty pumped up about Marcus Peters. So I asked Davante about Amik Robertson. He got pretty fired up when he was lined up against Davante, and Davante ran a really clean route, man. He ran up, gave him a double move, and then stopped on a dime and came back, and Amik went the other way. And it was almost like in basketball where someone crosses you over and you're like, ooh. Well, the crowd that was there, the fans that were there, and there were a select few fans there on day one of training camp, all of a sudden you heard them go, ooh. And then Amik, he did not give up on the play. He hustled back and broke up the ball, and he looked immediately at the crowd and goes, ooh, what? So I asked Davante Adams about defensive backs getting fired up when they make a play against them and how he can help them improve overall.
Yeah, man. It's a iron sharpen iron type game out there, and I love to see those guys getting fired up because I want to see them doing the same thing when they make a play against somebody else, and I'm definitely going to turn up on them when I make those plays. So I love to see that type of fire, and excitement. And obviously it means a lot to them, not being funny, but it means a lot to them to make a play on me in those situations. So, I got to make sure I don't let them get it. I don't want to kill anybody's confidence, but it's my job to not give too many opportunities for them to be out there beating on the chest.
Thought that was a really good exchange, and it was great to see Amik Robertson being Amik Robertson, right? And what I mean by that is that dude is always, chirping. He's always talking a little bit of trash. He has an edge to him. He's a smaller dude, so he always feels like he's got to have that chip on the shoulder, and that's how he rolls. And he made a really good play against Davante Adams, but you heard Davante there is like, hey, it's my job to make sure these guys aren't pumping their chest and pounding their chest too many times. So also Marcus Epps talked to us. I don't have any sound bites from him, but I got a couple from Maxx Crosby that I wanted to close out segment number 1 with here. And the first one is about having a different quarterback out there. And I think you'll find this pretty interesting, what Maxx Crosby has to say about Jimmy Garoppolo. But this is the first time in his career that there hasn't been a Derek Carr out there. There's been 3 new quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, and also Aiden O'Connell. So here's Crosby on seeing a different quarterback out there.
It's a little different, Jimmy's cool as hell. I've been here all offseason with him. He's been training, working his ass off to get back. So I'm fired up that he's out there with us. Literally before practice started, he's already talking. So I love it. So that's the kind of guy I want to compete against. So that's between us. But he's a competitive dude. I love him. He's a dog. And I'm not just saying that because he's my quarterback. There's certain guys that are dogs, and he's definitely one of them. So I love it. I'm definitely looking forward to competing and getting after it.
I thought it was pretty interesting that you hear Maxx Crosby say that Jimmy's a dog. Right, and he was out there talking trash. And, I'm not trying to throw any shade at all on Derek Carr, but I never heard Max speak on Derek like that. I never heard him talk disrespectful to him or about him, but just to hear him, talking about Jimmy the way he is, and he was out there talking trash even before practice. It seems like that Max has a lot of respect for Jimmy, and so again, I think that Jimmy's a good quarterback. It's always going to be about health when it comes to me and Jimmy Garoppolo, but it sounds like that he is making a lot of good friends in that locker room, including Mad Maxx Crosby. But I thought that was interesting, just the way he was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. Also, Maxx Crosby talking about challenging himself every single offseason. This dude grinds and grinds and grinds and grinds. But does he do it? Does he challenge himself to find something else to work on each and every year? There's something that he always brings to the table that he's trying to get a little bit better at. So here's Maxx Crosby on continuing to challenge himself.
Yeah, for sure. Every single year, I try to find a 1%. That 1% I can improve in every single category. So, yeah, like this offseason, I started 2 weeks early. I started January 30th. I've already put in 6 months of training, PR'd in all the things I wanted to PR in. So, there's always room for improvement. There's always more to do. So for me, I just about how can I eat better? How can I sleep better? How can I recover better? How can I train better? And that's, what we've done all offseason. I got to give a ton of credit to Rick Slate, working with me every single day, AJ, the whole staff, Ricky, nutritionist, literally everybody in the building, has helped me, do it. I'm just trying to be, like I said, I talk about all the time, I want to be the best. So that's what I literally push myself all year round to get to that goal, and I'm not stopping until I get there.
Couple more quick sound bites real quick from Maxx Crosby as he met with us following the first day of practice at Raiders training camp. And this one was a question I asked about defensive goals, something that I've been very adamant about. I've been putting out the 40-20, 40 sacks and 20 interceptions. And as unrealistic as that might be, I think that that's a good number to have out there just to try to get these guys to, focus in on something that they can aim for. So I asked him, is there any kind of numbers as far as defensive goals go when it comes to sacks, pressures, interceptions, or turnovers?
Yeah, honestly, there's no number. We don't put a number on anything. No, when it comes to that, we want to be the best version of ourselves, because sometimes people put numbers on things and you're putting a ceiling on yourself. Like, I don't ever put a number on my sack total or pressures or whatever. I just try to improve literally one day at a time. So, yeah, 2 years ago, I didn't know I was going to get 100 pressures. I could have said, all right, I'm going to get 70, and then you end up with 100, and you're like, all right, well, now, I'm setting my bar too low. Like, for me, I know where I want to be and I know where I'm going. So I'm never going to put a ceiling on myself, and I don't want any of the guys in the room to do that either. So, yeah, if we're all on the same page and flying around, you never know what you can do. It's sky's the limit.
So there's Max. He said there's no number. You know, he doesn't want to put a ceiling, he doesn't want to limit anybody. But I'll tell you right now, if you put up a large number like 40 and 20, I don't think that that's a ceiling, but I understand what he's saying. So that was Maxx Crosby responding to my question about defensive goals and if they have any defensive goals. And the final soundbite from Maxx Crosby here in segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes of the day, is about the newcomer, Marcus Peters. Again, Maxx Crosby has talked many times about needing dogs on the defensive side of things. Well, what does he think about Marcus Peters?
He's an alpha. You know, I love Marcus. I've known him since my rookie year. We got the same agent. So Marcus is my guy. You know, he's cousins. You know, Marshawn's his cousin. So, yeah, Marcus is like family. So I love Marcus. He brings that attitude that, you know, we need in the secondary. And I can't wait, you know, to see him get out there and keep competing because he's a dog for sure.
There you go. There's Maxx Crosby talking about Marcus Peters, and he said he's an alpha. He's a dog. He's one of those guys that'll help set the tone. And, you know, one of those things that I think that the Raiders need is those tone setters on the defensive side of things. Can Marcus Peters be that guy for the secondary? Maxx Crosby is that guy for the defensive line. You know, do they have one of those tone setters in the linebacking room? Only time will tell. But I think Marcus Peters is going to be a nice addition. He's not the, you know, prime, you know, middle of his career, Marcus Peters, but he's still a guy that can get after it. So definitely think he's a good addition. I'm interested to see what kind of season he has. But clearly the teammates there at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, all the Raiders players are pretty excited about the addition of one Marcus Peters. So that's all I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 2, what were some of my observations? What did I think of the first day of training camp? Want to see how this kind of evolves. Don't expect perfection on day 1. I never would go into it with those kind of thoughts. And if the best day that they have is day 1, then they're in trouble, right? Well, we'll talk about all of that coming up in segment number 2 after I tell you about eBay Motors. And I'll tell you right now that our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So with draft prep underway for the upcoming season, let's check out who Vinny has picked out for this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And since training camp just opened for the Silver and Black, might as well go with, well, Davante Adams and also Patrick Mahomes. He says, looking to make a smooth turn in fantasy football snake drafts with the last pick in the first round and the first pick in the second round, you'll be guaranteed to have 2 of the surest performers by going all AFC West with Raiders wide receiver Davante Adams and Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Adams has proved he remains a reliable top selection in Las Vegas, while Mahomes will again operate with both the highest floor and ceiling among the standout luxury options at this point. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, and struts. You name it, eBay Motors has it. And they'll make sure it's the right fit for your car because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So, go forward, switch gears, crank the AC, say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Not Russell Wilson. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You're Locked On Raiders, your daily podcast on the Las Vegas Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I want to give you my observations from day 1 of training camp practice. I want to be your eyes and ears. Whatever I hear, whatever I see, I want to be able to bring here to the podcast. So first of all, I'll start with some things that I thought were good, and that's the fact that they're further along than they were at this time last year. Right. And I mean, after day 1, these guys are, you know, running the 7-on-7 drills. They're running 11-on-11 drills. Of course, there's no pads on or anything, but it just seems like there's a better understanding of what they're supposed to be doing. It seems like it's a little bit crispier. It seems like they're going from station to station a little bit quicker, something that I talked about during mandatory minicamp and the OTAs. Just seems like they're doing more stuff right now as opposed to what they were doing at this time last year. They really had a ramp-up period to even getting going. Maybe Josh McDaniels and the coaching staff was kind of trying to figure things out. This year, I feel like a lot of guys, a lot of coaches have a lot better understanding of what they're trying to do. Now, there's a lot of turnover on the roster, so it's not like everyone's in year 2. But with the leadership being the same, with Maxx Crosby and Davante Adams in particular, the offensive line for the most part being all intact, I kind of feel like that they're much further along than they were last year, which can only be a good thing. Right? I mean, they were going through special teams drill, punt drills were going on right in front of us, and I know I didn't see any of that. Probably the first week that was going on last year. So they're definitely further along, which I feel like could only be a good thing. Also, another good thing is that all 3 quarterbacks were all getting reps. What do I mean by that? Jimmy G was throwing to Davante. Brian Hoyer was throwing to Davante. Aiden O'Connell was throwing to Davante. There was no just first team, second team, third team. It was basically like, hey, this is early in training camp. We're not preparing for a game right now. Everyone could get acclimated to each other. I think that that's a good thing because you never know. There's a chance that anyone could get injured at any time, and somebody might have to go in there and step up. Plus, it's allowing the wide receivers to get used to different quarterbacks. I mean, this is the first time in a long time, right, in a training camp that Derek Carr isn't quarterback number 1. Jimmy G, the ball comes out of his hand differently, right? I mean, it looks like it has kind of a downward trajectory when he throws the ball, where Derek Carr looked like everything was a floater, right? And that's not a bad thing. Again, not a disrespect. It's just different. Everyone throws the ball different. Brian Hoyer, if he's taking a deep shot, looks like he's laboring a little bit. So, he's probably not going to do that too often. Aiden O'Connell probably had the best ball of all on Wednesday. He probably threw the prettiest ball. Now, he also threw the ball where it would get almost look like he was a little fired up or he was a little excited, and he would throw it a little high. He threw one to the sideline. Davante caught it, but he had to really climb the ladder to go get it. And I remember looking at Paul Gutierrez, was like, yeah, that one would have got him killed, right? You don't want to do that. So Aiden O'Connell has a very live arm. I can say that, and he does look the part, but, I mean, he's got to have to settle down. He's got to take a couple deep breaths and realize, hey, it's just training camp. It's not a game right now. Don't go in there and hyperventilate. So, again, he's a rookie, though. So what do you expect? But, just seeing those quarterbacks really rotate, I think that was a good thing. As far as defensive goes, Amik Robertson, I mentioned him getting after Davante Adams and making a nice play, not giving up on the play. I think that was the biggest thing, not giving up on the play when he was beat. Davante had beat him. I mean, the route Davante ran was crisp. It was clean. It was on point. And then Amik came back and made the play. Thought that was good. Saw Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end, lay out and make a really nice catch on a terrible throw, right? And I can't remember who threw it. I think it was Brian Hoyer. It was either Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell. It wasn't a Jimmy G pass, but Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer threw a ball that wasn't very good, and Michael Mayer, he laid out to go get it. I want to say Aiden O'Connell threw. Was it Aiden O'Connell? It might have been Brian Hoyer who threw a nice little sideline pass that Austin Hooper. He played really well. He had Jacorian Bennett, the rookie, all on his back, and he basically boxed him out like a center would in basketball. And Jacorian Bennett couldn't do anything but either go through him or try to go over him, and that wasn't going to happen. So Austin Hooper was able to come down with a nice ball. Speaking of Jacorian Bennett, I don't know if he's going to be a really good defensive back or not. I have no idea. It's only one day of training camp. As I mentioned at the top, definitely not going to overreact. What I do know about Jacorian Bennett, he's got speed, and he's got more speed. Right? No matter what happened, no matter who ran a deep route, he was running stride for stride with them. Now, there was even a time where he was beaten. I believe Philip Dorsett is the one who beat him, and he was smart enough to know, like, hey, let me just go ahead and get a penalty here, reach out and make a play where I'm going to get called for a flag, but at least I'm not going to give up a touchdown. So, I mean, he did that as well. So it kind of showed a little bit of vet savvy, even though, unfortunately, in the NFL, it's a spot foul as opposed to in college where it's just a 15-yarder. But he looks like I said, I don't know if he's going to be a really good defensive back or not. Only time will tell. But he's everything is advertised when it comes to speed. So that was also really good as far as, just a few observations that I had from day one of training camp. Looked like that, Coach McDaniels was pretty satisfied. He was doing a lot of teaching. He was putting his arm around guys and just kind of walking with them. So there's always been a lot of concern. Is he a player's coach or not? It looked like the players were pretty open to what Coach McDaniels was saying and the way he was teaching on Wednesday. As far as bad goes, when a play is there to be made, a play has got to be made. Jimmy G threw a pass that, one, shouldn't have been thrown. It was an ill-advised pass. It went right over the middle of the field, and Divine Diablo put his hands up to make the play, hit his hands. It was like stone hands, and boom, ball just dropped harmlessly to the ground. those kind of plays can't happen. I know that these guys aren't going to make the play every single time. There's a reason why they play defense. But when the ball goes straight to you, nobody gets in the way of it, and you have a chance to make a play, you've got to make that play. The Raiders only had 6 interceptions in 2022 for a reason. They don't make those plays. And 9 times out of 10, if you have that opportunity to make that play and you don't, the very next play you get burned. So that was something, and I guarantee you Davante Diablo would say that. He would say, hey, I have to make that play. I've got to do that. Also, I mentioned it, Brian Hoyer, it looked like he was laboring a little bit to try to get the ball down the field. Whenever he was trying to take a deep shot, it just didn't look good. It looked like he was putting everything he could into it. And I think we know who Brian Hoyer is at this point. You don't want to see him on the field for an extended amount of time. I mean, and I had someone call in my radio show, and they said, well, what's he doing out there? And I said, honestly, Brian Hoyer is more of a teacher, a coach on the field than he is a guy that you expect to get in there and get some reps. His job is to really coach up Aiden O'Connell and get him prepared just in case he needs to go in there. Davante Adams was wide open on a deep route one play, and the ball went flying over his head. Right, and you could see that he was a little visibly upset by that. And I wasn't saying it was anything bad that he was upset, but I mean, you could tell that Davante was a little frustrated that ball, when he was wide open, it should have hit him in stride. Instead, it went over his head. There was nothing he can do, so he's a little frustrated there. I think he was a little frustrated with that Aiden O'Connell sideline pass that I was talking about that went a little high. But, then he made a bunch of plays, and he was pretty it seemed like you could tell he was pretty happy. Like the body language changed a little bit when it came to Davante. So it wasn't a whole lot of bad. I'm not going to go and nitpick every single thing after one day of training camp. That'd just be insane to do that. But that was kind of the bad that I saw. And what I need to see more of before I get a good idea, I need to see Jimmy G continue to get on the same page with the wide receivers. A couple passes I saw to Davante, I thought that he should have thrown the ball a little bit before Davante actually got out of his break. But that's stuff that they got to work on. That's timing, right? So that's stuff that I would like to see. I'd like to see a little bit more timing. It's just Jimmy looks like, to be honest, I mean, he didn't pass his physical for the longest. It looked like he hadn't thrown the ball for a while, right? There was times where he threw some passes and you're like, ooh, that was a really good pass. And then there's other times where you're like, ooh, that wasn't very good. There was one pass that just it looked bad. It looked like it came out like a helicopter. And I don't know if it just slipped out of his hand or what. But, it just looked like he just had a little bit of rust. So he just needs some more time on the grass. I mean, that was the first day on the grass with anybody. So you could tell that he just was a little bit rusty here and there. But I think that'll continue to grow, and that's just stuff that you have to see. The defense just needs to continue to try to make plays. Like I said, there was a time when Davante Diablo had an opportunity to make a play, and he didn't make it. But these guys are trying. You can see the effort to try to get there, which is a good thing. But once they get there, they've got to make the plays. And what I'd like to see also is someone be that vocal leader. Like, I'm standing on the sideline, I don't hear anybody chirping. And I'm not saying just talking trash for the sake of talking trash, but just hear somebody. Hear that leadership. Hey, this, that, and especially on the defensive side of things. Kind of being that quarterback on the defense. I'd like to hear more of that. Again, day one of training camp. Not going to overreact, but those are a couple observations that I had. But for the most part, I thought day one was pretty good. Teo Johnson, former Raiders tight end, he was there at practice as well and talked to me and said, hey, look, and he said it like this, we have a quarterback, we have playmakers. I think we're going to actually be a good team this year. Even though nobody's talking about us, I think we're going to be a good team. You kind of watch. And so, look, that's a former player. He knows what he's looking for. He called out Michael Mayer. He said he thinks he's going to be a really good tight end. He's looking forward to what he sees with him. Austin Hooper as well. He's pretty pumped up about him. Expects Josh Jacobs to show up at some point. He's obviously a key cog and likes the few pieces that are there on defense to step up and make some plays. So Teo Johnson was pretty happy after day one of training camp. And like I said, I thought day one went pretty well as well. There's a couple little things just if I'm trying to nitpick that I talked about there, but that's just about it. Of course, I'll continue to give you my observations day after day after day. We have today, we have Friday, and we also have Saturday. Then Sunday they have their first day off. So the next few days we're going to go and we'll be out there and we'll be observing. And of course, everything I observe, I'll bring back here to the Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up, segment number 3, your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line 707-654-4693. This is the Locked On Raiders podcast.
Your Locked On Raiders, your daily podcast on the Las Vegas Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with TK in Arizona. He's calling to talk about embarrassing moments in 2022 that Raider players should have on their mind as they open up training camp. Here he is, TK in Arizona.
Hey, what's going on, Q? This is TK calling out of Arizona. where we got them triple degree weather so hot that you can fry an egg off the ground. Hope everything's going good with you, man. Appreciate listening to your podcast first thing every morning. I'm going to keep it short and sweet this morning. I was just wondering, do you think there's any particular embarrassment from last season that the players should be just having tattooed on their brains during this training camp and this off season in preparations for the new season? I mean, we had a lot of embarrassments last year. We had multiple leads that we choked away. We had a loss to the Colts that we had no business losing to Saturday. We had Baker Mayfield beat us when he just touched down in L.A. We had the New Orleans game where our offense couldn't get past the 50-yard line almost the entire game. But personally, I mean, for me, like the one that just like, they played it on that Netflix series they have, QBs. When the Kansas City Chiefs in the second game against them did that ring around the Rosie play, where literally the offense did ring around the Rosie on us and still scored. Like, I feel like our defense should be like replaying that play in their head, just like to really just grind their gears, man, and get them hyped up and pissed off. Hopefully defense can step up this year and we can make some things happen. Still don't trust McDaniels, but that's because he hasn't earned it yet. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? Raider Nation, win, lose, or tie. I'm Raider Nation till I die. Let's get hyped up, man. The season's coming, man. We can still do something all day. Appreciate what you do, Q. Have a good one.
TK, thanks for the call, my man. And, yeah, unfortunately, there were plenty of embarrassing moments, right? But honestly, I think, outside of the embarrassing moments, the thing that they should be concerned about the most, especially defensively, is that no other offense was concerned about them. No offense in the league was worried about the Raiders' defense at all. Everyone looked at number 98 and said, okay, don't let him wreck the game. But everyone else, they ain't worried about those guys. They weren't worried about Chandler Jones. They weren't worried about anyone from the defensive tackle position. They sure weren't worried about no linebackers, weren't worried about any corners, no safeties, nothing. Nobody on the defense concerned any other team in the league except for Maxx Crosby. And he still came out with 12.5 sacks. But, again, nobody had any type of concern. That's what they should be most, worried about. Embarrassing, 6 interceptions. That's embarrassing, right? That's the kind of stuff. They should have some pride. Have a little bit of chip on their shoulder. Get pissed off that, teams felt like they could do whatever they wanted. You mentioned the ring around the Rosies from the Kansas City Chiefs. Prime example. They felt like they could do whatever they want against the Raiders in that defense. So thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Rhode Island Raider Rob. Says, hey, Q, Rhode Island Raider Rob here. Love the show. My comment is for all the callers saying they should just pay Josh Jacobs whatever amount. I don't believe that's the route to go, and I don't believe that if they went to 2 different car dealerships that they would overpay for the same exact car at one dealership than the other. I'm sure they'd try to get the deal. Looking forward to a great season. Just win, baby. Rhode Island Raider Rob there. And, yeah, that's the thing about it. And the Raiders aren't going to pay Josh Jacobs just whatever. Right, you see what happened with Saquon Barkley. He didn't hold out very long at all, right? And it wasn't even a holdout because he didn't sign the franchise tag. I mean, he was there before training camp got started. He was the first one in the building, right? He signed his deal for $900,000 extra. I don't know how much extra it's going to take for to get a deal with Josh Jacobs, but I'm assuming something similar like that's going to happen. Now he could dig his heels in and say no, that's not going to do it, but I do believe something similar like that's going to happen. And then they'll have to worry about a long-term deal following the season if that's the direction that either side wants to go. But, just paying them whatever is obviously not the right direction to go. So thanks for that text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Tyler in Nashville. He's calling to talk about what his thoughts were while he was watching post-practice press conferences on Wednesday. Here he is, Tyler in Nashville.
What up, Q? This is Tyler in Nashville. Haven't called in a while, man. Hope everything's well. I just wanted to say, after watching the presser today, it kind of dawned on me that this year has all of the building blocks for one of those years where they kind of come out and come out swinging, and I think they got a chip on their shoulder. Something weird about it. I think the expectations are low, and when that happens, they might surprise some people. It is nice to see Jimmy G at the podium, confident. He seems like a great leader. No shade to Derek Carr, but it is nice to have somebody come up there and not have to give a bunch of excuses and a bunch of rhetoric. I know we're divisive as Raider Nation on that, but it is nice to have a confident guy as our quarterback. The Marcus Peters signing, he's a dog. We got young guys that can learn behind him. I think that's going to be very, very important, especially coming down the stretch. Dudes can learn from him. Maxx is dialed in even more than last year, which I don't even know how that's possible. That dude's a legend, and we need to be thankful he's on our team and embrace these moments with him, because he's going to be one of the all-time greats. I'm excited about this year. I know we do this every year, us Raider fans, especially longtime Raider fans. This is the best time of year, but it has all the ingredients of that weird year where they don't have any expectations. Everybody's dogging them, and they come out and they start smacking people. I hope that's the truth. I'm not being overly optimistic. I don't have a reason to be, but got that feeling in the air. Let's go, Raider Nation. We'll see. Peace out.
Tyler, thanks so much, and I think that you might be onto something, right? I mentioned talking to former Raiders tight end Teo Johnson, and he was actually on my radio show as well on Wednesday, and I asked him about that, kind of flying under the radar. Nobody has those high expectations. Last year at this time, I thought the team was going to be a double-digit team, a double-digit win team, a playoff team, compete with anybody. Clearly that didn't happen. This year, nobody's talking about expectations. I even say I have no idea what to expect. Maybe that's a good thing. Nobody's talking big about them, and they could just go on there, get a chip on their shoulder, get a little upset that they're not getting the respect, and go out there and just prove it and prove that they should be believed in. That could be a way to go. Sometimes not being talked about is a good thing. So maybe that's what the Raiders could take advantage of. So thank you so much for that call. I definitely appreciate you. We'll close things out with a text from Raider Matt in Orange County. He said, "What's up, Q? It's Raider Matt in Orange County. Listening to Chandler Jones, and he said a young player to keep an eye on is Adam Plant, number 52. Any other sleeper or young guys we should be looking out for in the preseason?" Again, it's Raider Matt in Orange County, and thanks so much for that. And, yeah, Adam Plant is actually the Las Vegas native. He went to UNLV, so, yeah, he's a guy that definitely pay attention to. A few people have talked about him. Also, Sincere McCormick talked about him on Wednesday's show. He's a guy to look out for. Drake Thomas, the linebacker. I mentioned him before, the undrafted free agent out of NC State. He's a little undersized, but for the most part, he sounds like a guy that can get after it and may be able to help out in a major way in that linebacker room. So just a couple names right there to look out for. But yeah, Adam Plant, definitely heard some good things about him. Sincere McCormick, the running back out of UTSA, who was put on IR in May last year after signing in May and then put on IR in May. I feel like that was kind of a stash him type of way situation. And, we'll see what he can bring to the table this year from that running back position if he's able to make the team, and also Drake Thomas. So that's what I got for you, and that's about it, Raider Nation. That's all I got for you for today's show. Of course, we're back at it this morning. 8:30 to 10:15 will be the practice time that we're able to observe. 10:30 we'll start talking to different players and a few different coaches following practice. So, of course, anything good coming from that, all the good observations that I get or any observations that I get from practice, we'll bring that to the table on tomorrow's show. We'll have more calls and texts as well. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.